Celeste Ainsworth was a master of blending in. Just under 5'7", her slender figure appeared to shrink inwards whenever she moved. She navigated the passages of Crestwood Academy like a phantom. Her light brown hair was always in a messy braid that sat lopsided, partially hiding hazel eyes that held a wisdom others overlooked. The worn, oversized olive coat she wore had belonged to her cousin, a hand-me-down that swamped her petite frame, making her look even smaller. Nearly a month had gone by since her family landed in this quiet Arizona town, and Celeste had skillfully dodged nearly all social interactions. That's how she liked it. Her dad's job in the Forest Service meant constant moving. She learned long ago that making friends was pointless when you were never around long enough to make it worth it. What nobody at Crestwood knew was that these moves introduced her to archery ranges across the country, where she discovered peace in the strict training that her unsettled home life lacked. By 15, Celeste had reached a proficient level in Olympic archery and had practiced traditional Japanese kyudo for several years. Her coaches consistently praised her focus and dedication, but Celeste kept this quiet. She quickly understood that showing any kind of skill only made you more of a target when you were always the new kid. Crestwood Academy occupied 60 acres of desert landscape, its tan adobe buildings connected by open-air walkways where students gathered between classes. The school took pride in its debate team and science programs, but like most schools, it had its share of students who preyed on others. Brinley Jones dominated the junior class with the confidence of being the mayor's daughter, along with the type of effortless charm that made teachers ignore problems. Nearly 5'11" with a body that looked like she spent every free moment doing yoga, Brinley had dark curly hair and green eyes that could change from friendly to cold in a flash. Her two friends, Harper and Kennedy, followed her lead without question. Harper was short and sarcastic, always ready to make a joke, while Kennedy was tall and dramatic, with a talent for making others feel small. The first time it happened was on a Wednesday afternoon in the main corridor close to the display cases. Celeste was heading to her locker, eyes down, studying the cracks in the tiled floor, when someone intentionally knocked into her hard enough to send her sheet music flying. "Watch it, newbie," Brinley said, her voice having that sharp tone that was loud enough for everyone to hear. Some students slowed down to watch, but nobody stopped. Celeste bent down to pick up her scattered music sheets, her hands tight, but movement steady. "Sorry," she whispered, even though they both knew it wasn't her fault. "You better be," Harper said, stepping on one of Celeste's music sheets as she tried to grab it. "Maybe you'll pay attention next time." The giggling that followed them stung Celeste's ears, but she made herself breathe deeply, the way Master Ito had taught her back in Colorado. Physical fights were always the last option, and these were just words. This became a pattern over the next few days. Brinley and her group found little ways to make Celeste miserable, knocking things from her hands, making comments about her coat or her quiet nature, making her feel like an outsider. The incidents were always minor enough that no teacher would care, but constant enough to create stress. It was during lunch in the courtyard when Celeste first noticed Willow Hayes. She sat alone at a shaded table, reading a dog-eared poetry book while picking at a fruit salad. Her long brown hair was loose, and she wore a vintage concert t-shirt that told Celeste she wasn't trying to fit in. When she looked up and caught Celeste staring, she gave a small wave that made Celeste's heart skip a beat in a way that had nothing to do with the bad cafeteria food. Their first real talk happened by chance when they both reached for the same book in the library. "Sylvia Plath," Willow said, looking at the cover. "Good choice, though I'd suggest Sexton's Transformations if you haven't read it." Celeste found herself talking to someone for the first time in weeks. "I haven't. Is it like this?" "Similar themes but darker, more about fairy tales and the female experience." She stopped, looking at Celeste's face. "You're the new girl, right? Celeste?" She was surprised she knew her name. "Yeah, and you're Willow." News travels fast in a school this small, she said with a smile, especially when someone can stay invisible for a month. That's talent. Their friendship grew slowly, from sharing lunch in the library to quiet talks about books, music, and the weirdness of high school. Willow had been at Crestwood since elementary school, but had never found her place in the cliques. She was too smart for the party crowd, too different for the academics, and too real for the social climbers. Celeste found herself looking forward to school for the first time since arriving, but she was careful to hide her feelings for Willow. She was someone she'd never allowed herself to want, a real connection with someone who saw past her walls. The bullying went on, but Celeste dealt with it using the patience she'd learned through years of meditation. Brinley seemed to see her as a toy, a stress ball to squeeze when she wanted to feel powerful. The incidents got worse slowly. Shoulder checks in the hallway became harder, comments became meaner, and the audience grew as word spread that the new girl was an easy target. "Why don't you fight back?" Willow asked one day as they sat on a bench after school. She'd seen Harper accidentally spill iced tea on Celeste's coat during lunch, and she sounded annoyed. Celeste was quiet for a moment, watching the students walking to their cars. "Sometimes fighting back makes things worse," she said quietly. "My mom always said the strongest person is the one who doesn't need to prove it." She didn't tell her that she'd seen what happened when people lost control. During her third year of Kyudo training in Washington, she'd watched a student seriously hurt someone during an argument, the legal problems, the guilt, the way it changed him. Celeste had promised never to let her training become a weapon unless someone was in real danger. The last straw came on a Thursday afternoon in late November. Celeste was walking through the main hallway with Willow, talking about plans to go hiking that weekend, when Brinley and her crew showed up as if they had been waiting. Well, what do we have here?" Brinley said, sounding surprised. "The invisible girl finally got a girlfriend." Willow gripped her books, but kept walking. Celeste felt her stomach clench, but she forced herself to keep moving toward the exit. "I'm talking to you, ghost girl," Brinley called out, her voice echoing. "Don't be rude." When Celeste kept walking, Harper moved to block their way, while Kennedy circled behind them. The hallway was full of students heading home, but the crowd seemed to open up automatically, creating a circle. "Leave us alone, Brinley," Willow said, sounding steady but tight. "Oh, the little poet has opinions," Brinley laughed, and Celeste saw a glint in her eyes. "Tell me, Willow, what do you see in this loser? Is it the way she runs from everything? Real attractive in a girl. Better than making yourself feel big by picking on people who won't fight back." Willow shot back, and Celeste wished she hadn't said it. Brinley's face darkened. "Insecurity. That's rich coming from someone who's been a nobody since grade school." She stepped closer to Celeste, close enough that Celeste could smell her perfume. "You know what, ghost girl? I think it's time everyone saw what you really are." Before Celeste could react, Brinley grabbed the front of her olive coat and pulled hard. The worn fabric, already weak from years of use, tore with a ripping sound that echoed through the quiet hallway. The force made Celeste stumble, and she heard Willow gasp as the coat split open. "Oops," Brinley said, still holding the torn fabric. "Looks like your girlfriend's outfit is as weak as she is, Willow." The laughter from the crowd felt like punches. Celeste stood there in her thin sweater, the ruined coat in tatters, feeling exposed and ashamed. That coat had been her armor, and now it was destroyed in front of half the school. But it was Willow's face that broke something inside her. She wasn't laughing or embarrassed. She was angry, her cheeks flushed for Celeste's sake, and seeing her caught up in this was more than she could take. "That coat was my cousin's," Celeste said quietly, her voice carrying a tone that made the laughter stop. "What was that, ghost girl?" Brinley mocked, dropping the torn fabric at Celeste's feet. "Speak up so everyone can hear you." Celeste looked down at the coat, then back at Brinley. Something had changed in her posture. a slight straightening of her spine that made her seem taller. "I said that coat was my cousin's. My cousin who's a doctor, working in a small village with limited resources." The change in Celeste was small but clear. Her shoulders squared, her hands relaxed, and her breathing became deep. Willow noticed it first, the way she went from defensive to ready. "So what?" Harper laughed, but she didn't sound sure. "Your cousin isn't here to protect you." "No," Celeste agreed, her voice calm. "She's not." Over the weekend, news of the coat incident spread through social media. Videos showed Brinley's laughter and Celeste's humiliation, and by Monday, everyone at Crestwood had seen it. Celeste dealt with the stares with the same quiet dignity, but those who looked closely might have seen changes. She moved through the hallways with more energy, her steps steady, her awareness high. During lunch, instead of sitting quietly while Willow read, she asked her about her interests, mentioning that she had trained in archery during her family's moves. "Really?" Willow asked, looking up with interest. "What kind?" "Olympic archery, mostly. Some Kyudo." She shrugged. "Moving a lot. It was something I could do anywhere." Willow studied her face, noticing her eyes seemed more focused than before. Are you good at it?" Celeste paused. "Good enough." That afternoon, Mr. Evans, the history teacher, noticed Celeste's posture in class. "Miss Ainsworth," he said after class, "you seem different today, more confident." "Just having a good day," Celeste replied with a small smile. She had spent the weekend processing what had happened, working through her feelings with the focus her training had taught her. The shame had been a trigger, removing her hesitation to stand up for herself. She wasn't looking for revenge, but she wouldn't be a victim. Brinley, meanwhile, felt good about her win. Tearing Celeste's coat had made her look strong, and she enjoyed the attention. "Did you see her face?" Harper laughed at lunch. "I thought she was going to cry." "Best part was watching her little girlfriend realize what a loser she's been hanging out with," Kennedy added. Brinley leaned back, looking at the courtyard like a queen. "We need to plan something special for this week. Can't let Ghost Girl think that was it." The chance came Tuesday during the passing period. The hallway near the auditorium was always crowded, perfect for what Brinley had planned. She'd asked some friends to help, and they stood in the hallway. Celeste was walking to her math class, alone since Willow had a different schedule, when she saw Brinley, Harper, and Kennedy. "Well, well," Brinley said loudly. "Look who decided to show her face again. How's that coat doing, Ghost Girl?" The crowd started to form, students pulling out phones to record. Celeste stopped but didn't back down, her dark eyes meeting Brinley's. "I asked you a question," Brinley said, stepping closer. "Or are you too scared? Maybe we need to help you find your voice." This time, Harper didn't wait. She moved behind Celeste while Kennedy approached from the side, trying to do what had worked before. But when Harper reached out to grab Celeste's shoulder, something surprising happened. Celeste moved fast, catching Harper's wrist in a grip that made her gasp. It was so fast that students gasped. "Don't touch me," Celeste said quietly, her voice silencing the crowd. Harper tried to pull away, but Celeste's grip was strong. She applied pressure without causing harm, then let go, showing she was in control. Brinley's eyes widened, but she wouldn't back down. "So the Ghost Girl can fight," she sneered, but she didn't sound sure. "Let's see how tough you are." As Brinley moved forward, Celeste shifted into a stance that anyone with archery knowledge would have recognized. Her feet were steady, her weight balanced, her hands relaxed but ready. She went from victim to trained athlete. "I don't want to fight you, Brinley," Celeste said, her voice calm. "Walk away." The hallway was silent. Even the background noise faded as everyone realized they were seeing something new. The quiet girl, the easy target, was standing her ground. Brinley's face turned red. She couldn't back down with everyone watching. "You think you scare me," she yelled, swinging at Celeste's head. What happened next would be on social media for weeks. Celeste moved smoothly, stepping aside from Brinley's attack and using her momentum against her. A quick move sent Brinley crashing to the floor. Kennedy rushed in, but Celeste was ready. She had learned to track opponents, and she caught Kennedy's charge with a perfectly timed move that sent her sprawling next to Brinley. It all took less than 10 seconds, and when it was over, both bullies were on the ground while Celeste stood over them, barely breathing hard. Harper, clutching her wrist, looked at her friends and backed away. "How ... Brinley gasped, staring up at Celeste. "How did you—" "I tried to avoid this," Celeste said, offering her hand to help Brinley up. Everyone was surprised. "But I won't be anyone's victim." Brinley hesitated, then took her hand and let Celeste pull her up. The crowd understood that the victor was showing mercy. "This isn't over," Brinley muttered, but she didn't sound sure. Everyone had seen how easily Celeste had handled them, and the school had changed. "Yes," Celeste said, her eyes meeting Brinley's. "It is." As the crowd left, Willow appeared. She'd missed the fight, but had seen Celeste helping Brinley up. "Are you okay?" she asked, sounding worried. "I'm fine," Celeste replied, and for the first time since arriving, she meant it. The weight of being bullied had been lifted. She was still the same person, but now everyone else could see it. The fight rippled through Crestwood. By the end of the day, videos had been shared, and the story got more dramatic. The quiet new girl had shown she was a fighter, but she had also shown mercy. Principal Ramirez called the girls to his office, but the investigation was complicated by the fact that witnesses confirmed Celeste had acted in self-defense. Brinley and Kennedy received suspension, while Celeste received a warning. "I understand you were defending yourself," Principal Ramirez said. "But is this going to be a problem?" Celeste shook her head. "I don't think so, sir. I think it's settled." The school had changed. Students who had ignored Celeste now nodded when they passed her. The students who had planned to watch Brinley humiliate Celeste now kept their distance. Brinley seemed to have changed. She no longer acted proud, and she seemed to be questioning her actions. She no longer traveled with her friends, and when she saw Celeste, she nodded slightly. Willow saw Celeste in a new way. The gentle girl she had befriended was still there, but she understood there was more to her. Their friendship grew as they talked about everything from literature to the strangeness of teenage life. "Why didn't you tell me about your training?" she asked one evening as they sat in the parking lot after a school event. Celeste paused, watching the crowd leave. "Because I never wanted to be defined by what I could do," she said. "I wanted to be valued for who I am, not what I can do when pushed. And now I realize that sometimes you have to show strength before people will see your other qualities." She looked at her eyes serious. "I don't regret it, but I hope it never happens again." 2 weeks after the fight, a conversation took place near the display cases. Brinley approached Celeste alone, looking determined. "Ainsworth," she said, not sounding arrogant. "Can I talk to you?" Celeste stopped and turned to face her. "What's up?" Brinley looked uncomfortable, struggling with words. "I wanted to... what I did to you with the coat." She stopped, then continued. "It was wrong. I was being an ass, and you didn't deserve it." The apology hung in the air. Celeste studied Brinley's face, seeing something new, uncertainty, maybe even regret. "Why?" Celeste asked. "Why did you target me?" Brinley paused, staring at the display cases. "Because I could," she admitted. "Because you were new and quiet and you didn't fight back. It made me feel powerful, like I was important. And now I realize that making someone else feel small doesn't make you bigger." Brinley met Celeste's eyes. "I'm not asking you to forgive me or be my friend. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I did was wrong, and it won't happen again." Celeste nodded slowly. "I appreciate that," she said. "And I think you're better than the person you were pretending to be." As they parted, both girls understood that something had changed, not just between them, but in their understanding of themselves. Brinley walked away with a new awareness of her actions, while Celeste felt complete. The story of what happened at Crestwood became legend. But for those who lived it, the lesson wasn't about the fight. It was about the courage to be yourself and to refuse to be a victim, and the understanding that real strength comes not from hurting others, but from knowing when not to use your power. Celeste Ainsworth had learned to be visible without losing herself, to stand up without becoming what she'd feared, and at Crestwood, everyone had learned that sometimes the quietest person is the one you should never underestimate. The sun beat down on the adobe walls, casting long shadows as Celeste walked toward Willow, a gentle breeze rustling through the desert plants nearby, carrying the scent of sage and dust. She smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile that reflected the newfound peace within her. The air felt lighter, the sky bluer, and the future, once shrouded in uncertainty, now held a glimmer of hope, a promise of genuine connection and belonging. The distant sound of traffic faded into a low hum, replaced by the chirping of crickets and the rustling of leaves, creating a symphony of nature that celebrated her transformation. She took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face, the strength in her limbs, and the unwavering support of the person who stood by her side. She was no longer invisible, no longer afraid, but a force to be reckoned with, a testament to the power of resilience and the beauty of unexpected friendships. The desert, once a symbol of her isolation, now felt like a sanctuary, a place where she could finally bloom.